something in me always kind of thought that there was more to just owning a law firm. I always kind of felt like God continued to push forward the law firm with growth, with nothing of my own doing. This is an organization where we have a lot of people that are seeking more. They want to know, why does the company exist? The law firm donates to the foundation. The foundation runs a mission trip. The foundation is based on volunteer work. Ever since I was a kid, I really always liked giving back and helping others. When you give from what you have or even from what you don't have, God somehow works everything in a way for that to just come back to you tenfold. Pastor Freddie started asking me like, well, Alex, why don't you come with me on a mission trip? I have my family, my kids are young. Some of these countries might be dangerous. I felt like I just had to take the step forward and do it without having a perfect system yet or a perfect organization.
You leave the van and start hiking?
The van actually got stuck, almost like a ditch. We're going into unknown territory late at night. And I told David, this is why we needed a driver. I'm already frustrated at this point.
And I'm trying to describe a baptism to this guy. And he says, I know the place. Hop in. Out of nowhere, a clearing opens up and there's a body of water that nobody had told us about. The Seventh-day Adventist Church was founded and birthed in the United States of America. We believe that God has raised up this movement at a unique time in Earth's history.
One of the school leaders actually said that at some point he had gotten very discouraged because he felt like nobody cared about their community and nobody had ever gone to their school. They were just seeking that connection.
I'm really grateful to be able to interview Alex Uriarte today. He's going to talk to us about the Uriarte Foundation and the work that he's been doing, specifically as it pertains to mission trips. And so just super grateful, Alex, for you taking time to share what God is doing with the mission trips that your foundation has directed, coordinated over the last several years. And so just thank you for the time.
Thank you. No, it's a privilege and an honor to be able to do so. And then, of course, being able to share that with others is even more important, I think, as we try to potentially inspire others to go out and do the same, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys just got back from Guatemala. So before we, dive into the details, is there one thing that jumps out at you from your most recent trip that you can say, wow, I saw God?
Yes, for me, it was being able to take my family, which I had never been able to take them to a mission trip before. And so being able to was a dream of mine. It was a dream come true. Being able to see my wife involved, being able to see my kids, especially just giving from themselves, it was incredible. Even with a language barrier that my kids don't speak Spanish that well, they were still able to really connect with the kids. They were engaged. They weren't on their phones or their iPads. They were just
amazing.
They never said that they were bored, that they wanted to go home, that they missed the luxuries of home. If anything, they were just so engaged and they wanted to meet more kids and they wanted to help more. And they were like, well, tomorrow, what are we going to do? Are we going to help more kids? And so it was just beautiful being able to see them give from their own stuff. So my daughter gave away a necklace of hers that was very important with a girl that she connected with. My son gave away his hat, his glasses, So little things like that, just being able to see them do things like that was just incredible for me.
No, and I got to be honest with you. I think that for me, in my experience with mission trips, that has probably been the number one motivator, because I've seen that. I've seen that you can't. I guess it's a transformational experience, and I think that sounds like what you're describing.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell me about, this is the first time that you were able to take your family. Is it just a logistics thing? Was it like a concern safety thing that you waited? How long have you been doing mission trips, and what was it that you finally decided, no, I'm going to go with the family?
Well, my first mission trip actually was in high school. I actually ended up going with Sergio Torres with GMA in conjunction with the I think it was with the Acro Americas team with Leon. And so that was my first introduction to mission trips. We went to Mexico and we had an incredible time. And then I ended up going on a second trip a couple years later, again to Mexico with Sergio and another group. And it just, in me, it sparked something that was like, wow, I really enjoy this. I really got to do something for others and really see how far money can go and how much help people really need. I mean, traveling the world with my parents, I hadn't really gotten to see the amount of poverty that I got to see in these mission trips. So, as I got older, of course, that a lot of other things kind of kept me busy, but I always kept coming back to that. And Pastor Fidel Falcon always
Legend,
inspired me. He
legend.
started
Yeah,
going into all these other countries and building churches. And
yeah.
he came to my doorstep and he said, "Hey, Alex, is this something you want
Yeah,
to help with?" And I said, "Absolutely.
beautiful.
Where do I write the check? I
Yeah,
I would love to see this project through and see how far it can go." But then Pastor Freddie started asking me like, "Well, Alex, why don't you come with me on a mission trip, right?"
yeah,
And I was like, "Okay, I mean, I think I could do that." But I have my family. My kids are
yeah,
young; they have school, and plus, I kind of like thinking about the dangers, right?
of course.
Like some of these countries might be dangerous. I don't
Yeah,
know. My kids are still small, right? So I was like, "Okay, let me go on one. Let's do one together, right?"
yeah,
And so, yeah, that first time, it was incredible. Went to Colombia, and it was very kind of like I would say a little bit less organized than I would have wanted, but we just kind of put something together
yeah,
without even having a nonprofit, without having anything really squared away. It was
yeah,
just a collab
yeah,
with Pastor Freddie, and ended up taking some of my staff. So but then I saw like, okay, this can be done. Yes, there are some accommodations that maybe aren't maybe the best for my family, right?
yeah,
But it can be done in a way that I think they would still be comfortable, right?
yeah.
So yeah, then this
And
time I
you've done the cabins at Camp Calagua, so that kind of prepares you.
oh yeah, I've done camping. I was a pathfinder,
Yes,
so
sir.
I've camped in the
You've
woods,
roughed it
and
out.
yeah, we've done survival campings.
Yeah,
So but my kids aren't used to that,
of
and
course,
so
yeah,
it was just something that I was like,
yeah,
okay, well, we could do it in a way where they could be comfortable still
yeah,
and still be able to open them up to it. And I know
yeah,
once they see the poverty, they see the kids, they're
yeah,
they're gonna feel bad, and they're gonna say, "I want to be in
yeah,
there with them," and I'm okay giving up some of the luxuries that I'm used to in order to
yeah,
be among the kids and
yeah.
help them out. And they really were. I mean, they ate things that I've never seen them eat before.
Wow.
They walked like an incredible amount and hiked and did things that I didn't expect.
A lot of
So
steps, a lot of steps.
yeah, yeah. So
You
and
mentioned before you go on, you mentioned several legends,
yeah.
Sergio Torres, Fidel Falcon, and it's like you're talking about people that, at least for me, and I would say for you, have marked the way forward. Like
Yeah.
I know that Sergio has always, as a matter of fact, I think he was actively, a couple of weeks ago, involved in one of these mission trips. But Sergio's one of those people that for me was just like a legendary figure that embodied ministry as well as being a missionary.
Yeah.
And so Fidel Falcon as well, like we know that, just his, latter years, and I would add Demetrio Hernandez, just did an amazing job of sacrificially, finding resources to go build churches and the impact, man. But then the young people, their minds are the kids' minds are never gonna be the same, man.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So that was an
Yeah.
inspiration to me. And then part of it is hoping that I can help inspire others and
Yeah.
carry that forward, right? Where other people could be like, okay,
Yeah.
well, seeing that inspired me to now start doing these things on my own. And maybe like, yeah, we don't all have it put together, right? But it's not sometimes I felt like I just had to take the step forward and do
Yeah.
it without having a perfect system yet or a perfect organization.
Right.
Just go out and do it and then kind of start getting better and better every year.
Yeah. And what I would say is that, for me, I'm really keen on seeing how Arise Miami can become involved in having mission trips. Like, there's a lot of people that have come up to me over the years. Even the last week. I was approached by one of our leadership saying, "Hey, man, what would it take for us to be involved in a mission trip?" So it's a lot of logistics. There's fundraising involved. But the focus, it's really my focus would be to inspire the next generation, because that's
Yeah.
really one of the things that arise that we're like, hey, we're about the next generation.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, so you saw your children engage.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
That was beautiful to see. And it's definitely something that I think that they just got a small taste of now. It was
yeah,
interesting that when we came back, my son Zach, he was actually crying that night.
Oh, wow.
And he said that he just missed the kids in Guatemala a lot,
Wow.
so he really
Yeah.
wanted to go back. And so just seeing how much it touched him was very inspiring for me as well. And
Yeah.
I want to continue taking them back every year and them getting more and more out of it.
Yeah. So I was able to, with Alexandra, in our I guess several years ago, in our, earlier on in our ministry, we prioritized mission trips, and we took leadership to Africa, to the Philippines, to Indonesia, and on some of those trips we were able to take our children, Daniel and Isabella, and to see the impact of that, what you experienced with your kids. It's life changing, and that's why I really think that this is something that I'd really like to get behind, and to just create some synergy around that. So tell me about how you have been motivated to not just go for yourself, but also to involve your staff. Here at Uriarte Law, like what has that been like, and what has motivated you to say, let me bring some of my staff.
Yeah, something in me always kind of thought that there was more to just owning a law firm.
Okay.
And I always kind of felt like God continued to push forward the law firm with growth with nothing of my own
Yeah.
doing. And it was like people would ask me like, "Oh, how are you growing so much?" And
Mhm.
I was just like, "Dude, I don't even know.
Yeah.
Like God just continues to open up the floodgates and I really have no idea why. I don't know what
Yeah.
purpose he has. I don't feel like I'm worthy, like I deserve any of it, but I'm along for the ride.
Yeah.
So just knowing that God always had some sort of purpose, has always protected us. Yes, there's been challenges up and down throughout over the last 12 years that I've had a law firm.
Yeah.
But at some point, it finally clicked that it was like, okay, there's more. This is not just a law firm, right?
Yeah.
This is an organization where we have a lot of people here that are seeking more, right? They do enjoy purpose. They want to know the reason why. Why does the
Yeah.
company exist? Ended up hiring a consultant a couple years ago, and that was
Hmm.
one of the first things they asked me is like, okay, what are your values? What's
Yeah.
your mission?
Yeah.
What's your vision? And of course, I had just some standard boilerplate one that I put
Right.
on my employee manual that we probably downloaded off the internet or something.
Yeah.
And when we really got down to it, I was like, wow, why do I exist? Is it
Yeah.
just to make money? Like that's not a purpose, right?
Yeah.
So let's really reevaluate this and see what makes this law firm different. Like,
Yeah.
the consultant asked me, is like, what do you want to be known for? And all of a sudden I just said like, I want
It's
to
a
be
great
known as
question.
the law firm that gives the most.
Wow.
I don't know, like it just came out of me to say something like that.
Mm.
And he was like, wow, okay, let's build off of that, right? Like, what are
Yeah.
you doing actively that's going to show that, right? And essentially, this could be essentially like a organization that's philanthropy, like disguised as a law firm,
Yeah.
basically, right? It's
Wow.
like, okay, so we have a way
I love that.
that we can produce, right? We could still help people in the community that have been injured in
Yeah.
some sort of accident, and they need help, right? But at the same time, we can also use that because we have a huge amount of people here that love helping others,
Yeah.
right? And then we could use some of the funds from here to donate to
Yeah.
nonprofits and be able to do more in the community for people that are not even our clients, right? And make a much bigger impact in
Yeah.
the world, right? And imagine if
Right.
we grew the law firm even more, we grew to other states, right? Like how much more of an impact can we make on employees in that community? How much more can we make in those families,
Yeah.
in people that just need help in the community in general? And then, of course, yeah, our own staff as well. So to me, that was very important. It's like, okay, there's a lot of companies that will say this is what our culture is, right? Or
Yeah.
this is what our vision, our mission is, but they don't actually carry it through. And I didn't want to be looked at as one of those, right? So how
Yeah.
we
You
always talk
say
about
you
shadow culture
shadow
versus
versus
like
stated. Yeah.
stated culture,
I
right?
love that. I love that. I love that
And
we have that terminology, and that we're understanding terms to describe the reality. Yeah. Shadow
yeah,
culture is what the organization actually does. Stated culture is what they say they do. And then the tension that exists. And just for the sake of people that are watching us,
yeah,
shadow is what you actually do. Stated is what's on the wall.
Right.
and the tension with always bringing in those two things into alignment. And there's always a misalignment. It's just human nature. Like you wake up, you're misaligned, and so I love it. I love that we're pursuing intentionality to that level to say, hey, it's on the wall, but am I living up to that? And how prayerfully with the power of the Holy Spirit, how can we bring what we're actually doing into alignment with what we feel? And what I would just add to that, and I can get excited about this, is that what's on the wall is directed by God.
Yeah.
That God's like, hey, this is what I need you to do, because it's like this, God's called us to so many different things. And so, yeah, Shadow stated, I love it.
Yeah, yeah. And then it's just when I got that feeling
Yeah.
of going out there, I was like, I have to allow other people to experience this as
Yeah.
well. So it's not just about helping the people in that community, it's
Yeah.
about helping our own community to experience the power of giving and helping, right? And
Yeah.
seeing how much more they even receive out of it.
Of course, of course. Tell me specifically, was there a moment in this trip particularly where you're like, God showed up? Can you tell us a story? Like what was one of those moments of all the moments that happened? Because I'm sure there's not just one. And I have stories that I could share. But tell me about this trip to Guatemala. Where did you like point and say that was God? There's no question.
Yeah, so there was this family that Pastor Freddie had somehow gotten in contact with them through a contact he had over there, leader in the community in a very small village out there, like maybe an hour outside of Antigua, Guatemala, farming village, very
Yeah.
small, but they have an Adventist church there, and there was a community leader there. She was doing more like a health spiritual retreat center,
Okay.
right? And so yeah, she brings in people and does vegetarian food and educates them and so Pastor Freddie had contact with her, and then she shared with us a story of a family that was sleeping on a concrete slab
Wow.
surrounded by basically tin.
Yeah.
And, he was able to actually go over there to Guatemala even before the mission trip, right?
Yeah.
He actually ended up going for a wedding. And so he went and he visited the family.
Yeah.
And beautiful family, husband and wife, they have a few kids. And he was able to see what they were living in, and he saw water dripping down when it was raining. They would be really cold at night, and these were people that lived across from the Adventist church, like literally like
Amazing. Yeah.
walking right across. And he promised the family that he was going to help them, and that he was going to get us involved and engage a group that was going to build them a house.
Wow.
So it was
Wow.
very ambitious. He
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
it without
Sure.
even talking to us about
Yeah.
it. But he brought the project to the foundation, and we were able to hear their story
Yeah.
and hear a family dedicated to God. And it turns out that when we went over there to Guatemala, actually the kids ended up individually all connecting with somebody from our organization. Like one of the girls really connected with my wife, Kathy, and Kathy had no idea that that was the family that we had been building
Oh,
the house
interesting.
for.
That's interesting.
But Kathy told me, she's like, I want to give this doll to
Yeah.
this girl. She had
Yeah.
brought one doll, and she
Sure.
said, like, I'm going to give it to someone that's
Right.
special.
Yeah.
And then also Ricky, who went with us, my brother-in-law,
Yeah.
he also connected with one of the other daughters, and he just had this special connection with her.
Yeah.
And then we also connected with the little boy, and Zach wanted to give him a car. So just like all these little
Yeah.
things that then later, when towards the end of the mission trip, when we ended up announcing that this was the family, everybody was kind of like blown away. They're like, wow, I've been connecting with this family. Like I felt something special with them
Like
this
divinely
entire time.
orchestrated.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. That's beautiful, man. I'm thinking of a particular mission trip that we took to the Philippines years ago, and my one of the elders of our church, a Filipino married to an Anglo lady, both of them leaders, in our church, back in Houston. And I remember that we're in the how would I describe this? We're in the backcountry in northern Philippines. Like it's not the major cities. And whenever I do mission trips, I like to go to the rural areas because I just sometimes feel like the resources flow to the major cities most of the time.
Yeah.
And because of the desire to make the maximum impact, you want it to really mean something. We've always managed to coordinate. Take me to where really the aid is not arriving. That's where I want to go, right?
Yeah.
And one of the moments where we did several things. We did the medical missionary work, and then we did evangelistic work at night. So we would do medical missionary work. There was a vacation Bible school for children, and then at night, we would preach. And I would have specific people preaching. So I wasn't the preacher guy like, hey, let me do this. No, no. It was also part of the vision to let other people experience preaching the gospel and then inviting people to receive the gospel. So here we got, end of the week, got a bunch of people that need to be baptized, and there's no water. So I'm like, where do we baptize these people? And Joey and I, God bless him, Joey Rick, a friend, I love him to death, man. Um, Joey and I were prayerful and saying, God, where do we baptize these people? And they have these things called tuk-tuks.
Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah, they had them in Guatemala
okay,
too,
yeah, yeah,
and Colombia, I
yeah.
think,
So
and Costa
some people
Rica.
pedal them,
Yeah,
some people run,
yeah,
some people have a motorcycle attached to the thing, so you could jump in there. And this dude shows up out of nowhere as Joy and I are praying, and I look at the guy and I say, "Hey, man, I'm wondering if you could take us to a place where we would be able to." And I'm trying to describe a baptism to this guy, and the guy looks at us and he says, I know the place. Hop in." And so we hop in and we go down. He takes us to a place where nobody knows. Like again, we're already remote in the middle of nowhere, and he takes us to this spot, and out of nowhere, a clearing opens up that is literally capable of accommodating hundreds of people, and there's a body of water that nobody had told us about.
wow,
Okay, so here's where it gets crazy. The guy says, "Look, when do you want to do this? We want to do this on Saturday." Okay, no problem. This is the location. This is how it is. I'll meet you guys. Whatever. We'll be back here. Whatever. So now we've organized the baptism, and Joey and I show up the day of that. We're gonna have this guy coordinate the arrival to the baptismal location, and the guy's nowhere to be found. And the locals, when we describe this person to them, they say that we've never seen or heard of anybody like that.
wow.
And Joey and I are like, bro, God shows up. Like, that's another thing that I am convinced mission trips are transformational, because it's almost like we're stretching ourselves, right? And you know that growth occurs outside the comfort zone. And all of us have arrived at a specific comfort zone.
Yeah.
And that stretching, it's almost like God rewards our faith with some of these divine appointments, like that divine orchestration that you're describing.
Yes.
Joey and I, and to this day, Joey and I have a bond that's beautiful, man. And it's like we remember, no, 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 God visited us.
Wow.
God was with us. And so your family was able to see that. Tell me about the employees that were able to see God and how you've seen them change.
Yeah, and that was something that I always tried to be a little bit careful with, because in business,
Of course, yeah.
it's kind of like a fine line where obviously we don't want to force religion on the employees. And so I just try to be a good example in general, at least in terms of telling them, hey, look, we're gonna help people, right?
Yeah.
We're here to give back. This is part of our mission, right? Although the law firm itself is not the one doing the mission trip per se, right? But there's a symbiotic
Sure.
relationship where the law firm donates to the foundation runs a mission trip, the foundation is based on volunteer work. So we do ask that any employees that would like to volunteer their time to go
Yeah.
with the foundation. And we've also taken people that are not employees as well. There was couple family members from Miami Temple that were able to come
Nice.
with us through Pastor Freddie. He was able to bring them, and they were of a great help and a great blessing. So but just in general, they did know obviously that there's a religious aspect to it.
Yeah.
They had to agree to that before going, knowing that there was going to be prayer and there was going to be talks about
Full
God. And
disclosure. Full disclosure.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So we did have devotionals. Pastor
Yeah.
Freddie was a great spiritual leader throughout all of our
Yeah.
mission trips.
Yeah.
So he would every morning make sure we got everybody together for breakfast. We had devotionals. We had some reflection time, even in the afternoons, evenings, where we were able to just kind of like unpack a lot of things that happened. People were able to share something special that touched them
Yeah.
or how they felt. So it was beautiful seeing even people that I had no idea had any desire for, spiritual awakening, just kind of seeing them be transformed throughout the
Wow.
process, seeing people get emotional, seeing people crying, hugging, praying, and then coming back and just seeing the difference in them here now, just opens up like a whole new light, to see the transformation.
Yeah, and I imagine without naming any names, but you've been able to see. I'm assuming that people came back different from the mission trip than before they left. Would you be able to say that?
I would be able to say that, yeah, and I'm
Yeah,
sure they would be able to say
yeah,
that as well.
that's awesome.
And part of it is I didn't want everybody to just hear it from me, right? So we actually ended up having some of the people that did go on the mission trip go to our quarterly meeting for the law firm and then be able to share their experience in front of everybody, having the opportunity to share what is so special about this trip, how it made a difference to them, and how they were able to make a difference in other people's lives. So hearing their testimonies as well
Yeah,
was, I feel like, something that's really important for other people to hear, so that it's not just coming from us, right?
yeah, awesome. I heard that there was a maybe a hairy situation that occurred. You want to share a little bit about what happened? I heard that you guys were in a van at night and it got stuck. Like, tell me what happened and what, if it was a moment that you were like, Lord, please don't let us get kidnapped here.
Yes, so that was actually the first night where we got everybody together,
That's lovely. That's
and
lovely. Way
yeah,
to
that was,
start
yeah,
off the
it
mission
was a
trip.
rough start. It was a rough start. So Freddie has always told me that we got to be cognizant that, yeah, sometimes the enemy will
There is an
attack when
enemy.
we're
Absolutely. Yeah.
when we're trying to do something
100%.
good, and so we
Yeah.
have to be prepared
Right.
for some of these things that come up, right?
Yeah.
So well, we all went to dinner, kind of like our welcome dinner, everybody
Yeah.
just hanging out, having fun, getting to know each other. Super excited, just got into town, and we're kind of reviewing the itinerary. And after dinner, we had dinner in Antigua, Guatemala, in a nice little restaurant there.
Beautiful.
And then it's like, okay, guys, pack it up. All right, we're gonna go, and we're gonna go to the farm. All right, this is the farm I was
Yeah.
telling you about, the retreat center. And so and like, yeah, we're gonna go there. We're gonna meet Lori, which was gonna be our host. We were gonna see everything on the farm. Some of the people were that were with us were actually staying on the farm because they were helping there to fix a couple things on the farm, a greenhouse, and a couple other things that cutting some grass. And then we were going to split up the group because not everybody fit there. Some of
Okay.
them were going to an Airbnb kind of
Yeah.
close by, right? So, this whole time, of course, I'm always scared the entire mission trip that's like one thing goes wrong and my wife is never going to come back on another mission trip. So it's like
Does your
everything
wife
needs to be
is your wife in any
perfect.
way related to my wife?
I was like, everything needs to be perfect. So, and then we pack into the van. David's driving, and I was like, David, are you sure that you want to be driving?
Yeah.
Why didn't we get somebody local to drive
Yeah.
us? It's the
Chauffeurs.
farm, and then my wife is talking in my ear like it's late at night. Why are we going into unknown territory late at night? I don't like this. And I'm like, don't worry, everything's gonna be okay. David went there in the morning.
Yeah.
So I was like, he's already been there. We're all in the van. We're good. It's gonna be a great experience at the farm. No, we should just stay here and do it here. Don't worry, it's gonna be fine, right? So we start driving, you know, I'm like, okay, well, David doesn't seem like he's lost or anything, right? He's just going through a GPS, but he's
Yeah.
using, I don't know if it was Apple or Google, apparently in
Yeah.
Guatemala they use more ways,
Yeah.
especially to get to the more remote areas, right?
Right. Right.
And then all of a sudden he starts saying like, "Oh, well, this doesn't look that familiar, but it's because there's another path. There's one that's more direct, but it's a little rougher, and so this is the
Yeah.
easier path, but it takes a little longer.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess. Well, you
Yeah.
haven't been on this path
Sure.
before, but
Sure.
I guess we'll trust the process, right?
Yeah.
And then it starts, like, it cuts into this really dark road, and I was like, okay, this doesn't look good. and then it just keeps getting darker and darker, and I'm like, David, I don't think this is the way. No, no, yeah, the GPS is telling me this is
You're like
it.
this. This is like a movie I've seen before.
Yeah,
Everything starts coming
exactly.
to
And people
mind.
start freaking out in the back, it starts
Yeah,
getting really bumpy and rough. No, no, yeah, this is just the other way to get there, right?
yeah.
And then the grass starts getting taller and taller. And it's one of those where you're like, people haven't
Is
driven through here in a long time. I don't think this is a road for this.
wow.
And we're not in like some crazy off-road vehicle. We're in just some
Right.
15 passenger van, right?
Amazing. Yeah.
And then it starts getting steeper, and then he has to go faster, so that the van won't get stuck, right, at some
Yeah.
point, or you got to get that traction in there and get that momentum. So then people start screaming in the back. I hear my kids,
Oh
screaming,
my
my
God.
wife,
It's a
and I'm
perfect
like,
storm
oh
right
man,
here.
yeah, this is not good. And I told David, this is why we needed a driver. I'm already frustrated at
Yeah.
this point. And then eventually, yeah, we got to a point where it's
Yeah.
like the road really wasn't going
Passable. It
anywhere
was not
anymore.
passable.
Yeah, it
Wow.
was not passable anymore. We ended up getting to a point where the van actually got stuck essentially in a like almost
Mercy.
like a ditch,
Yeah.
where one of the tires was off already,
Oof.
like in the air. And so we all had to get off, a little bit of panic sets in
Sure.
because
Yeah.
we're like, man, we're in the middle of
No
nowhere.
way. Yeah.
We could be on somebody's private land somewhere.
Yeah.
We don't know if these people think that we're trying to
Yeah.
rob them, or who knows,
Right.
right? If somebody comes out with a weapon, or I don't know. I don't know if
Yeah.
there's
Everything.
gangs around here that could potentially try to cause harm to us. So and then all of a sudden, Roger was actually the most composed, and he
Good.
was like, guys, let's
Yeah.
not panic.
Yeah.
Let's come together. This is
Calm
one
your
of those
voice. Yeah.
moments where we really got to come together, trust in God. Let's pray, right?
I
Let's
love that.
pray.
Wow.
We're gonna find our way out of this. We just got to stay calm.
Yeah.
It's starting to get cold already.
Interesting.
We start hiking after the prayer. Yeah, we just start hiking, and
So
we
let me
keep
just
going.
get this straight. You leave the van and start hiking?
That's correct. Yeah, we had to abandon the van,
Wow.
and it wasn't going anywhere.
So the van is stuck.
the van is stuck.
It's inoperable. It's unusable at this point.
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
It was abandoned ship at that point. And
Which
then
is like that's a very difficult decision to make
it was, yeah.
because you're like, yeah, you're leaving a kind of like a safety mechanism in the vehicle.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Okay.
walking in complete darkness. Thankfully,
Some flashlights.
Roger had some flashlights,
Yeah.
and we were able to get at least see what was in front of us. It was very steep incline because
Yeah.
this was all through mountainous
Sure.
territory, and so we're trying to find signal to be able to call the other group and
Yeah.
try to get them to find us. So we kept hiking and hiking, and we're like, oh, we think it's this way. So we started kind of going backwards to where we were coming from, and we knew it was going to be probably like an hour hike because it was quite a drive.
This
So
is your Pathfinder in kicking in.
yes, and this is probably like at 9 o'clock at night,
Oh my goodness.
and
bro.
so it was
This
it
is
was
not-
pitch
no-
dark, and
No bueno.
yeah, my kids are there, and I'm like, man, this is it.
Yeah.
This is the first introduction to
Yeah.
a mission trip for my family and some of these
Yeah.
people. It's like it looks bad,
Yeah.
I was like, this is a disaster, right?
Right.
And I just start second guessing, like,
Yeah.
how did we not prepare for these kind of things
Sure.
properly? We made the wrong decisions, and so
Yeah.
just keep replaying those negative thoughts in my head.
Yeah.
But
Your
again,
brain is trying to resolve it. Your brain is trying to resolve it.
yeah. It's but everybody was very positive, and so it was actually beautiful seeing the team come together.
Yeah.
Because and sometimes in those moments, right, you kind of see a little bit more about how people react in moments like that.
Absolutely.
And so it was beautiful seeing the whole group. Everybody started to just calm down and encourage each other, and then little things started kind of coming together,
Which is an answer to prayer.
Yes.
Because the peace of God, literally, that sounds like the peace of God coming to be with you guys.
And we started seeing little things that were positive. Oh, okay, I see a light over there. Okay, I see a house over there. I see kind of like a road. Maybe there's some cars that way, right? Oh, okay, Luis was able to find us on the map. He's able to see our location, right? Okay, he's going to find a way to, get his van in and try to meet us up. So we were able to finally get in touch with him and find him.
Yeah.
and it was definitely a sigh of relief.
Sure.
And then, yeah, I mean, the next thing would be, okay, now what do we do with that van, right? So
Yeah.
that was the next day. It was like a whole nother mission to try to get that van out of
Of
there.
course, but you were able to be rescued.
Yes.
You were able to connect with the other team, get to your destination for the evening. What time did you guys end up getting to the
It must have
destination?
been past like 10 o'clock at
Okay,
that point where we
beautiful.
met up with them at the Airbnb. They had already had the devotional of
Sure.
the night and everything, and they were praying for us, of course.
Yeah, trying to
But
figure
there
it
was
out.
not much they could do at that
Yeah.
moment, right? But yeah, it was definitely when we got there. I mean, some of them were kind of like, "What's going on?" You know?
You know that I have a philosophy about this because I know that the enemy is at work, right? So the enemy wants to like block the blessing. And I've shared this with you and with Arise many times. Sure, but the enemy can't do anything unless God allows it.
Hmm.
And so I'm removing every bit of power that the devil has, and I'm giving all power to God. So yes, it's uncomfortable. The enemy is trying to discourage, distract, just side, what do you call this? Just like, take the mission trip off the rails from the get-go.
Yeah, yeah.
And yet God allowed that, and then he brought you guys through. And I have to give a shout out to David because every team needs a David. And then I also got to give a shout out to Roger
Yeah.
because every team needs a Roger. I love that. And it's like, you start to see the different people because I promise you, like, you need somebody that's like, no, we're going. Like, there's a time and place for a David to be like, we're going, and I have confidence, let's go. And praise God for David, but also for Roger to say, hey, that calming influence to bring the spirit into it. And how would you say that experience kind of did it set a tone? Did it reframe in any way the rest of the mission trip?
Yeah, I would say, definitely I feel like we kind of got it out of the way, the
Okay.
first disaster. And if we could survive that and everybody was able to come together and still be positive, we met up with them at the Airbnb, we prayed together with the rest of the group. They were just so happy to see us and know that we were okay. And, we got back, thankfully, safe and at a
Yeah.
decent time that we were like, okay, well, it's okay. It's
Yeah.
gonna be okay. This is not affecting the rest of the trip. We got through this together. We're gonna get through the rest of the trip, and that's how it was. We're able to all go back to our respective places that we were staying at, and early the next morning, we all got up and met up for breakfast, and everything was smooth sailing from there on. So it's almost like, yeah, well, at least we got it out of the way early.
Yeah. Well, that's what God allowed.
Yeah.
When you and I get to heaven, we're gonna see a bunch of stuff the devil wanted to throw at you guys, and God's like, nah, I'm not approving that. Because that's what I think. That's what I believe. And in 1 Corinthians 10:13 says that every single thing that the enemy brings to us, he has to have it approved by God. So I'm not giving him any power. So yeah, when we get to heaven, be like, yeah, there was a bunch of other stuff that did not get approved from heaven to come at you guys. Um, I have seen some podcasts recently that have been kind of negative about mission trips. I don't know if you've seen it. and
No.
and they're coming out, against this concept of taking, wealthy Westerners into impoverished areas, and this is the angle that I've heard. That's like a Christian tourism, and the money would go so much more. All the money that's spent on the airline tickets and all the money that's spent on the lodging, and they'll build a case. They're trying to build a case of how it's just way better for us to send the money and not go. And so I've thought about that, and I'm like, is there any weight to that? Is there any kind of like credibility to that claim? And I'm still on the side of let's take our people there, and I'm going to tell you why. And I want your feedback on this. I want your take on this. Um, there's probably like a truth to the money going further of all the money that we would spend on airline tickets, on all the lodging and the food and accommodations, right? But I think that the impact on future generations far outweighs whatever that happens. Because what if, and this is what I'm thinking, and my conviction to date, right? What if that is the catalyst for continuing to create the next generation of sacrificial givers? Like, any thoughts on that? Have you?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, and I could tell you that I personally experienced it where I was that one, like I said at first, where I would just write the check, send the money,
Yeah.
and I would tell Pastor Falcon and Pastor Freddie, and I was like, look, it's better use for me to just give you a check. Like
Yeah.
I don't need to go on the
Yeah.
trip. Like the money I'll spend, I'll give it to you
Yeah.
and you use it, right? And Pastor Freddie kept insisting. He's like, Alex, you need to experience it yourself. Like once you experience
Yeah.
it, you're gonna want everybody to experience this. And
Yeah.
you're going to see the kids' faces light up when
Yeah.
they're with you, the connection that you make with these families. Like they don't even care about the money. That's
Yeah.
the crazy part is, they loved the connection. They loved being
Yeah.
able to meet somebody from the United States. They loved seeing our pictures. They loved hearing our stories. They loved us asking what are their hopes and dreams? What do they want to achieve, right?
Yeah.
Just maybe some of them have never gotten that attention before and don't really get a lot of hugs and they don't get gifts. So to see their faces light up when we were able to give them that, and I thought it was beautiful that they even had all made cards for us. They made
Wow.
thank you cards that they personally made. They drew things on
Priceless.
it.
That's priceless. Yeah.
They wrote personalized messages on there thanking us for coming over. And one of the school leaders actually said that at some point he had gotten, I think, very discouraged because he felt like nobody cared about their community and
Mercy.
nobody had ever gone to their school and
Yeah.
ever donated or come to volunteer to help. So when he heard that this group from the United States was all of a
Yeah.
sudden coming to their school and was going to help him, I mean, he was blown away by it. He said it in a speech to us that he was like, nobody's ever done this for us, and we felt like
Praise God.
nobody cares about us, right? So they were just seeking that connection. They really enjoyed being amongst our people and having our people encourage them. There
Yeah.
were prayers that were shared, there were hugs, there were numbers exchanged. I mean, and that goes way beyond whatever money we could have just sent to some
Right.
organization over there to build something that maybe some of these kids will never truly get to enjoy, right? So maybe what I was telling a lot of these kids is when I would give them something, I was like, pay it forward.
Yeah.
If you can go ahead and now you can be a blessing to somebody else, go give that to somebody else, right? The house that we built for this family, we told them like we'd love to see that you bring in people here to this house. You're praying for them.
Yeah.
You let them sometimes maybe sleep in your house for somebody that doesn't have anything, right?
Yeah.
So we want to see this continue to be a blessing.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Yeah. I'm grateful that you have Luis on your team, and he's 100% Guatemalan. I'm 50%. But we Lewis and I have this really, really meaningful connection. And I know that he understands what it's like to come from a lower, standard of living. And so to have people like Lewis to come here to, be in the United States of America, and to then be able to be an instrument to help you guys with the logistics. Every place we've gone to, we've always relied heavily on people that are from there. So no matter where we've gone, I guess that's one of the mission trip hacks. Like, hey man, who's local there? Who
Yeah.
knows somebody on the ground
Yeah.
to make it meaningful? And I'm sure that, that impact is where I would say it's still worth it. Like I understand the Christian tourism, you know, tag or whatever they want to, label this as. There is an impact, and I don't know if you've thought about this, but the Seventh Day Adventist Church was founded and birthed in the United States of America,
Yeah.
right? So we believe that God has raised up this movement at a unique time in Earth's history, and it was birthed in. Um, to this day, if we travel up to northern New England, where the Adventist pioneers, the Seventh Day Adventist pioneers that came out of all of the local Protestant churches, behind the message of William Miller and the Millerite movement, if you and I still go back there, it's in the middle of nowhere. Like you could still go there, and there's nothing there. And so it's staggering to me that the movement, the religious awakening that began in the middle of nowhere, has literally traveled the globe. And in God's divine providence, he birthed it here, knowing that there was an economic engine here that would then, share the resources globally. And so I love the fact that God has put in your heart to share the resources, right? A friend of mine has, mentored me in finance for a long time and has said a lot of things, taught me a lot of things that I think are helpful. Money's an idea, and our bank accounts reflect the amount of people we've helped. He said stuff like, some people are so poor, the only thing they have is money, right?
Mhm.
So it's like this, it's uncoupling the numbers and zeros in the bank from, our identity. You've had an opportunity to be a Christian businessman. So you're a Christ follower and you're a businessman. How has that impacted the way that you've seen the increase that God is essentially entrusting you with? What's that been like?
Yeah, I will say that ever since I was a kid, I really always liked giving back and helping others. And for some reason, I just didn't really understand the entire concept of that actually coming back as a blessing.
Yeah,
I enjoyed doing it,
it's
and like I said, I,
better
I
to
went
give
on
than to
mission
receive.
trips as
Yeah,
a very young kid.
yeah,
I was that kid that would give from my own stuff to somebody else, or
yeah,
just take take people out and pay for their food and not ask for the money back or something. Just knowing like, hey, it's okay. I'm just doing something nice for you. But little by little, as I started also being a little bit more consistent with my tithing, as I started
mhm,
getting older, and just seeing God continue to bless me, as I noticed the same thing. Like the more that I was giving and helping others, the more I was blessed. And it wasn't like just some theory. I was actually seeing it carry through in my life. So that's
yeah,
when a lot of people ask me, it's like, oh, how do I become successful? Or how do I become
sure,
rich? Or I want to be a millionaire. And I tell people, well, like, how much are you giving, right?
beautiful.
It's something that directly correlates, and some people really don't believe it, or they just think it's something maybe that people say that just sounds nice, but it's something that I believe to be true. That when you give from what you have, or even from what you don't have,
Yeah,
God somehow magically works everything in a way for that to just come back to you tenfold.
yeah. It's the economy of heaven is not our economy.
Yeah.
The economy of heaven and we I had a conversation with somebody this week, and they were talking to me about just some financial challenges that they're facing, and I they invited me into their space. So I said, hey, if you want, I could look at the numbers and this and that. And so as we began to look at the numbers, it became apparent to them that they were not tithing correctly or appropriately to the in relation to their income. And I didn't say anything, right? They invited me into the space, but the Spirit convicted them, and they said, oh, I didn't realize that I hadn't been really tithing what I needed to be tithing. And I didn't say anything, but the Spirit convicted. And then I said, yeah, that is actually the key to financial success, being faithful with God. And Malachi 3 just says, hey, test me. It's like a beautiful thing. So David Lopez, treasurer of Arise, Miami, incredible man of God, incredibly successful businessman, as well as like, his ministries, through the years with, just the TV production, ministry that he led for so many years. He, as our treasurer, he marvels at how faithful God is when we're faithful with him,
Yeah.
and the provision of God isn't just enough for you to be full. It's like, it's abundant.
Yes.
It's like when he multiplied the fish and the loaves, there was 12 basketfuls of leftover. It's like, that's the beauty of God, that the provision isn't just like, hey, I'm just going to give you enough, so your hunger satisfied. No, it's 12 basketfuls, 12 for 12 of his disciples. Like, hey man, you help me in this. So as you are continuing to lead the foundation, your family, like, tell me about what this means to your family as you're leading by example, what it means to be a Christ follower, what it means to be a godly business owner and leader, and how your family has a front row seat to that. What does that mean to you? What's that like?
Yeah, I mean, I will tell you that I don't have it all figured out, and
Yeah,
sometimes I struggle a little bit with imposter syndrome.
sure,
Kind of,
sure,
it's one of those things that I'm like, why God, why me,
sure.
why choose me to lead? Who am I to lead anyone? my family,
Yeah.
my business, a foundation, for people to be maybe looking at me and being like, "Oh wow, that's so amazing," right? It's like I'm not perfect, I'm just like everybody else, and to me sometimes I do struggle with that it's like the enemy will constantly attack me and be like, oh, you're not worthy to lead a
Yeah.
group, why would people
Yeah.
listen to you? Who are you to inspire others, right? You've
Wow.
made a lot of mistakes in your past and you're not perfect. And so those are the kind of thoughts obviously
Yeah.
that I have to battle with, and just know that God used so many imperfect
Amen.
people throughout the
Wow.
Bible,
Amen.
and that just to me is so encouraging when I read stories of whether it be David or Paul or you know so many examples in the Bible that it's just like, man, that's what God specializes in, is taking broken people that
Yeah.
maybe you know they on their own merit, they can't do any of that. Moses, I mean,
Yeah.
but when God takes someone like that and says, I've chosen you for a particular reason, uh, it's something special that comes with that. And again, it doesn't mean that I'm better than anybody else
Of
at
course. Yeah.
all. It just something that God has chosen me for a particular purpose, and
Yeah.
I want everybody to also try to figure out what their purpose is, and they don't need to be perfect in order to go and help others, whether it be locally, whether it be internationally, wherever it may be. You can make a difference in the world, and it's there's no qualification for it.
I love that. I love that. I'll share this with you. I don't know if you've heard this before, but I heard it first from Pastor. I think his name is Randy, and for the longest time he was pastoring the Loma Linda University Church, Loma Linda, California. And I heard him say this, that all you and I are responsible for is the depth of our relationship with God, and He will decide the breadth of our impact.
Mm.
And I thought to myself, man, for everybody who has whatever ambition, maybe an unsanctified desire for more, and yet we have to prayerfully balance that, because that is what I'm like, that's interesting, because my responsibility isn't the breadth. My responsibility is the depth with God, and
Mm.
to connect deeply with Him, and whatever He decides to do with, my ministry impact, my life impact, it's up to Him. And of course the parable of the talents. It's unquestionable. It's unquestionable that God's the one that decides the talents that He's gonna, partition, and yet we're expected to multiply them.
Yeah.
So some people He gave, one. Some people He gave two. Some people He gave five. It's up to Him, And so, last question as we kind of wrap up. Thank you so much for taking the time to explore this and to be able to prayerfully inspire other people. If Jesus was sitting across from you, what would you want to hear Him say about what you're doing with your practice, the foundation, with your family? What would you want to hear Him say of you, Alex?
I mean, the words I always picture is well done, good and faithful servant. Right?
Yes,
It's like I feel
yes.
like that's what everybody wants to hear.
Amen to that.
So hopefully I can one day hear those words, of course, and that's always my motivation.
Yeah,
And again, I there's lots of things I still need to work on. I'm not perfect in any way, shape, or form. I'm just trying to help others, and so I feel like many times I truly don't deserve God's mercy and His grace, but I feel like that's again the beauty of it. It's just we're imperfect people,
yeah,
and God continues to have purpose for me and for all of us. And so as we continue seeking that and trying to figure out our purpose and our role in God's ultimate plan, um, I feel like you said, like as you analyze your relationship with God, and allow Him to kind of show you the road essentially, and this is how you are part of the plan. Just like a watch has many moving pieces to it. Some are
yeah,
small, some are big, and they all work together to make that watch work. And I've I can now try to see my place in that watch,
Yeah.
and be able to live with that, and hopefully inspire others to find their purpose,
Yeah.
and then know that they don't have to be perfect to do it.
Amen. I love that. I love that. Alex, thank you, man. My prayer is that we can inspire another generation, to begin to do mission trips at Arise. That's my my dream. There's a lot of people that have been asking me about it, and so to continue to give back, and then to be godly men, to be men after God's own heart. Yeah, anybody after God's own heart. So let me pray for us, man. Let me
Yes,
pray
please.
for us. So Lord, I thank you for just the opportunity to sit down with my brother Alex. We're so grateful for what you're doing in his life and in his family's life, and we just ask that we have the spirit from you to be faithful to whatever you put in front of us, Lord. Thank you for your blessings. You have been so good to us, Lord. If you didn't bless us anymore moving forward, you have already done too much. And so I just pray for Alex, everybody that he oversees, the people he's responsible for, his wife, his dear, dear wife, and his beautiful children, that you protect them and prosper them in every way. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
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 Amen. Thank you, my
Thank you,
brother.
Alex. Appreciate you, man.